Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Every Second Counts podcast. This is the sixth episode. The guest I have on today is Kat Mueller. But before we get there, I have to thank our sponsor of the show, 22 Mohawks. 22 Mohawks supplies veterans with emotional support dogs, gym memberships, financial support, mental health awareness classes. Be sure to go to 22mohawks.com. Go to 22 Mohawks Facebook page, 22 Mohawks Instagram page to find out more information about them. However, if you are new to the Every Second Counts podcast, please understand we talk to our veterans, talk about mental health, and we talk about everyday problems. So without further ado, I will bring in Kat Mueller.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Outstanding. I'm glad to have you on the show. If for those listening, we met while doing the Contagion Effect episode, and I was able to meet her and her husband, who I will have on a further episode. But Kat, you're in the Air Force.
I am.
What was the reasoning that brought you? First off, how long you've been in the Air Force?
I've been in the Air Force just over 10 years now, so halfway to retirement.
I understand that. So, what made you decide to join the military?
I think there were a few different things. I grew up in a small town in upstate New York. I went to college for political science for a little bit in Massachusetts. Wasn't really working out for me. When I was in high school, I was actually working with an Army recruiter and thinking about doing that a little bit. I had a lot of friends that joined the Army. After I went to college, I ended up transferring back home to a community college. Just wasn't working out for me. And I was like, you know what? I got to get out of here. My boyfriend at the time previously joined the Air Force, and I don't even think he made it through basic training. But I was like, you know what? It sounds like something I want to do. I want to join the Army before, but you know what? Maybe I'll just jump into the Air Force. So I think one of the things for me was I needed the structure in my life that I didn't have previously once I left high school. And I wanted to get out of my hometown. I hated it there. I just wanted to leave. There was nothing good going there for me anymore. So I decided to enlist, and right before enlisting, I actually got married, which was probably not the best idea. And that's kind of how I jumped in the Air Force. It ended up being a great thing for me, and it definitely was the best opportunity and option for me at the time. I don't know where I'd
Absolutely.
be if I didn't do it.
No, I agree with you because I feel I was in the same place. When you get to an age when you graduate high school, a lot of things need to happen. You have to come up
hmm
with a decision. You have to come up with a plan, and there's so much angst, I guess, from outside entities, friends, family that drive you towards college, that drive you towards against the military, that drive
Yeah.
you towards workforce things. Why was the military an option for you to begin with?
I think, well, in high school, I think most people in the military, they grew up doing sports too, a lot of them. So I just liked the structure of like my practices and being on a sports team and having someone tell me where to go and what to do.
Hmm.
Um, my mom was actually Army National Guard for a little bit, and my dad was Navy. And then I had a sister that was in the Marine Corps. They were all Guard and Reserve though, and I think they only did like a couple years and got out.
Hmm.
So I was never really pushed away from it. It wasn't something that people just like threw at me though either. It was just something that kind of fell into my lap, and they were like, "Hey, Air Force, here you go." And I just kind of jumped into it. I think
Yeah.
once I enlisted, I was gone the next month.
Oh wow. So they didn't give you time to think about
Yeah,
it.
I just went in, signed the papers, and I was like, my recruiter called me maybe a week later, and he's like, "Hey, I have this awesome job. It's optometry." I had no idea. So I had no clue what optometry was. I was like, whatever, sounds good. It's medical. I'll take it. And a month later, I was gone.
Now, when you sat down, and I know we joked around it before, but a lot of people don't understand it is not an easy deal to join the military, let alone join the Air Force. I want to say
Yeah.
the Air Force probably has to be one of the most, I say, demanding as far as at the application process. They don't waste time.
Yeah. They definitely take a lot in the ASVAB scores, and they're
Hmm.
very particular about where they put people. They're also very particular, like if you have any medical conditions or literally anything. I know when I first signed up, my recruiter was like, "You're gonna have to lose some weight," and I didn't even think I was overweight at the time. I was probably like 140, but I was like 5'4". I just had a lot of muscle.
Hmm.
Um, but apparently it was like 2 pounds too much, and I'm still over that weight.
Yeah,
But
that's
he was
the
like, "No, you
thing.
got to get in."
Absolutely, that's the thing. I mean, I worked at Mets myself, and I think that's a lot of people maybe don't understand. A lot of branches for females, their enlisting weight and shipping weight is pretty much almost the same. Where males,
Hmm.
there's a difference between their enlisting weight and their shipping weight. There's a good 10 to 15 pounds difference.
Yeah.
But females, it stays almost exact the whole
Yeah.
time, and it makes that weight unnatural or unreal.
Yeah. My weight has like never changed. So even I think when I had my baby, I only gained like maybe 15 pounds.
Hmm.
And I'm still back to the weight I was previously. So according to the Air Force, I'm overweight, but
I
I
think
can
I,
I can still outrun a lot of the guys. So I don't think that's a problem.
so coming from a small town in upstate New York,
Hmm.
going to the Air Force recruit training boot camp. I don't understand what do they call it?
Basic training.
Basic training.
Hmm.
So when you go to the Air Force basic training, where did you have it at?
That was what was it? Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio.
Okay,
So it
so
was hot.
I guarantee it was. So how was that going? So how old were you when you probably went?
I was 19.
Okay, so I
So
was the same age. So how was that experience for you?
surprisingly, it wasn't much of a culture shock. I've always
Hmm.
been a very carefree, go with the flow, I'll take it things as it comes. Um, so it wasn't that bad for me. And I've always been very physically fit. I think growing up, I was a three-sport athlete and I was a lifeguard and I was swimming all the time. So the physical endurance, I actually did less joining the Air Force than I did outside. So that
Hmm.
wasn't bad. I think the weather is what really got me. I wasn't used to being in a different climate, and that was what kind of threw me off a little bit. I'm sunburned almost every day.
Oh wow.
I have
So
very fair skin, and it was just like, okay, well, I need sunscreen every single day of my life down here.
so how long is your basic training?
It was only 9 or 10 weeks.
And then
It's
you go
fairly
off
short.
to your A school from there, or
Yeah, so we call it tech school. I know they have like AIT and stuff. Ours is
hmm.
tech school. And my tech school was only 10 weeks long too, but it was interesting. Probably could have been shorter.
So after you wrap around school, what was your first duty station?
I was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base,
Oh, okay.
so right outside of DC, and I loved it. The base was pretty cool. The only thing that sucked is it was the president's base,
Hmm.
so he would be flying in, and traffic would be stopped on base for like an hour, and it'd be pretty annoying.
A big lockdown every time
Oh yeah,
someone high political was on base or
yep.
anything.
It's like you're either not leaving or you're not coming on, and you just be sitting there waiting.
So how was it as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old female joining the military?
So for me,
Personally.
personally, for me, I think it was a little different because I went into the Air Force married.
Hmm.
Um, but going in, I saw a lot of females just there was a culture shock for other people because they're not comfortable, especially when it comes to races, everything. You get girls from places that have never seen a black girl before,
Hmm.
and they'll just walk up and like touch their hair. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, what the hell? And
Hmm.
they don't understand. But you also learn a lot about other girls and how they don't upkeep their personal hygiene.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, it was really just seeing how other people live their lives, and I'm like, oh, girl, someone needs to teach you some things because I
So
felt
right
so
off,
bad.
so right off the bat, were you in you when you first got stationed and you were married? Were you with your then husband?
Yeah, he ended up moving to Maryland with me at our first station.
Okay.
Um, we ended up drifting apart. It wasn't really a good relationship. We got married young, right before I joined, and it was kind of a shitty situation because I never actually wanted to get married.
Mhm.
It was like he said, either we get married when you join or you're never going to see me again. And I was living with him, so it kind of sucked. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm 18 years old. I'm about to get married to this guy. So I literally got married, and then a week later I joined the Air Force, and then I went to basic training, and everyone was like, she got married because she's pregnant. And I'm like, that's not why I got married. Like, no, I'm not. I can't be pregnant
Mhm.
in basic training either. So it was
Mhm.
really confusing. And then a lot of people, when I got to Andrews Air Force Base, they still thought that we got married because I got pregnant. And I was like, no, it was just a really bad situation. We probably never should have got married in the first place. Like, yeah, we loved each other, but I don't think we were for each other.
Was it
So
was it different being married so young? Well, I mean, I know from my own experience, but being everyone your age usually lives in the barracks,
yeah,
and their pay is a lot different. Their responsibilities before or after work are different, or their work schedule is different. Living on that
yeah.
on base life is a lot different.
You don't get to experience a lot of what other people your age experience being married. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
missed out a lot of that. Just like if you were to go to college, um, I pretty much went to college but didn't get to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of hard. I didn't get a lot of the advantages that a lot of the other airmen had. However, I got a different experience just living off base and living on my own, that I never had to actually deal with living in the barracks.
So you had the same experience I had per se. You grew up extremely fast.
Yes.
Like I remember I was 19 and I had a mortgage, and like my friends were still living at home. Friends are still, partying. They're still doing things. And no
Yeah.
matter what, I had to go to work tomorrow. I mean, at that time, 9/11 just happened. So there was a lot going on from my standpoint at my age. Like when we would go back home, it was just different. Relationship with friends and family was different because I was different. I
Yeah.
aged, like I guess maturity happens extremely fast when you get put in that position.
It does happen extremely fast. So I never got to do the partying phase. My husband at the time was like 3 years older than me almost.
Hmm.
So I've had alcohol when obviously he bought it, but once I turned 21, I didn't get the chance to go out and party. I
Hmm.
kind of just stayed in. I bought a bottle of scotch, absolutely disgusting, for my 21st birthday. I was like, I don't know why I did this. It was so gross. Um, and he wasn't really the type to wanna go out and experience it with me either, so I
Hmm.
didn't get to experience that. But when we got divorced, I think that's when things went downhill because I went absolutely insane because I never got to experience that party stage that most of the kids in the barracks get to experience.
You want to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I can.
Please do.
So once we were stationed in Andrews, we found out we were already kind of drifting apart. We ended up
Hmm.
being married 2 years by the time we left Andrews, or 3. We were married 4 years total. And then we moved to Anchorage, Alaska, and as soon as I got there, the first thing I did getting off that plane was I went to a bar. I was like, "I'm going to a bar. I'm going to sit down." Sat down, had some drinks, met some cool new people in Alaska, and they were like, "Hey, you should go to this place." And you probably heard it on The Contagion Effect if you listened to it, but I talked about the first place I went to other than that was Coots. And it's a bar in Alaska, and it has, like, this panty room, and people staple panties up on the wall. And my husband wasn't even there yet. He was driving up, and I'm just, like, out there meeting new people, drinking, just living up a little bit of Alaska while I can before he got there. Once he got there, we realized, like, our relationship wasn't working out. It wasn't something what we wanted, so we ended up going through a divorce. He went back to New York, and I ended up going to the bar almost every single night. I think
Was he stationed there, or
so
was
my
he already out by
my
that
ex
time?
that was my ex-husband. He was
Hmm.
out, so he was just a dependent following me around. First time in Alaska, and then I ended up, like, saying, "Hey, you gotta go back to New York. I can't live with you. I don't like this. Our relationship's not going good. I'm not getting the experiences I need." We just weren't on the same page. Like, we didn't want the same things.
How was your experience in the Air Force? Was that after 2 years or 4 years that PCS moved?
That was 3.5 years for me in, so pretty much almost 4 years I got to Alaska, 4 years in the military. Um,
Big difference from Maryland.
I I think it definitely changed my Air Force experience being
Hmm.
single, and I think I enjoyed it so much more. I started thriving more, in my
Hmm.
career, and I just, like, I got to party, but I was also still focusing on my career. However, my partying at some point did start impacting my career because I would show up to work a little bit late, or I would show up to work hungover and drunk. And my supervisor at the time, he even, I kind of got reprimanded for it. I got an LOC because I was showing up late. And I was like, you know what? I'm going through a divorce. I was literally going through a divorce at the time, filling out the paperwork, waiting for it to come in, getting him out of the house. I was living with a friend outside of my own house just because I didn't want to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was showing up late and I was going out drinking. I learned how to two-step then too, though. So something good came out of it. And
But that has to be a lot
it was a lot.
to take in all at once.
And I think that's why I started drinking so much too, is because I didn't get to experience it. And then on top of all the stress of everything that was going on, I was like, I didn't know how to handle that stress because I haven't gone through it before. So I immediately went to a place that I found comfort and happiness, which was drinking at a bar with people that actually liked me and wanted to talk to me. But my supervisor told me, he's like, hey, I can't tell you what to do, but I think you should talk to mental health. And he slid a number onto my desk on a piece of paper, and it was mental health number. And at the time in Alaska, I was like, fuck this guy. I'm not doing that shit. And I literally took that paper and I threw it in the garbage. My LLC got pretty much thrown out because I was really good at writing rebuttals. So I learned how to write Air Force paperwork that whole time because I learned how to write rebuttals. It was definitely a learning experience for me. It was sad that I had to go through all that to like get all these learning experiences, but it's part of life. So
Absolutely. I think if you're going through something and you see it through, you got to
yeah,
look at the benefit of, the whippings you had to go through to get there.
yeah,
Because I guarantee that the next 6 months, probably the first 6 months after the PCS was intense. New
yeah,
work environment, you're automatically getting divorced. Now you're living with someone you're still new with
yep.
as a, like friend. Like, is this someone you worked with?
It was someone that was introduced to me over line. So she was dating a military guy also,
Mm-hmm.
and so he deployed to Germany, and so me and her just like she had her own apartment, and I moved in with her for a little bit, and then a lot of stuff happened with her. She followed the guy up to Alaska as well, and he ended up cheating on her overseas in Germany. And so she just moved in with me into my apartment once my ex-husband left. So we ended up becoming really good friends. She actually ended up joining the Air Force also.
Mm-hmm.
We had a little bit of a falling out though, just because there was a lot going on. So yeah, there was.
So you where did you find yourself to where it was like, you know what, this is all bad?
I think once I started finding myself was when I met Schaefer. Honestly, um, I think it kind of hit me when after talking to him a little bit and he's like, you don't remember me? Because I met him a few times, taught him how to dance, and I was going out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, I don't remember you. I don't remember meeting you. And I was like, that was really sad for me because I was like, I want to remember the people that I'm meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was one thing that like hit me really hard. I was like, shit, I don't remember people because I'm drinking so much.
If you don't mind me asking, how long was it when you feel that it was becoming a lot at work till you met Schaefer?
It was probably about 4 months where I was like constantly going out, just meeting new people, drinking all the time. So I would say about after my divorce was finalized.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think I'm trying to do my timeline in my head. So my divorce was finalized September 14th, 2 days before my birthday, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I actually met Schaefer, I think a year after that in 2017 August. So there was about 4 months time frame between that and that year where I was going out to the bar every single night. Sundays were probably the only day I didn't, but I was brunching, so I was drinking a lot
Mm-hmm.
then. Mondays and Tuesdays, I was learning how to dance. I would go to the bar, have beers then. Wednesdays, I would probably go get some wine somewhere. But Thursdays was country night. And then Fridays, I would go out to the bar. Saturday, I would go out to the bar, just bar hopping around town. And it was almost literally every night I was going out. And then I was showing up to work I'd leave a uniform at work and I would show up to work at 4 o'clock in the morning because the bars up there stay open until about 5. So
Oh,
I
wow.
would close a bar down and then I would just go right into work, sleep on my desk for like an hour or two, and then just start seeing patients. And I was like falling asleep seeing patients. So I was like, this isn't working.
That's rough.
It was a lot. It was definitely rough.
Could you realize it at then, or
No, no,
but
not at
but
all.
others could?
Others could because others like I had coworkers that would come and tell me be like, you reek of tequila. And I'm like, fuck.
And it's like 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and I was like, "Damn." So, I definitely went through a lot with the drinking, and I didn't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it didn't actually hit me till not even after I met Schaefer, it hit me a lot when I came to Barksdale. 'Cause
What's
when I got stationed here,
mm-hmm.
it was after me and Schaefer got married, 'cause Schaefer drinks a lot too, so he also has a little issue with that. And then there was just, like, a situation here where something just went really bad. I was sitting at the bar all day. I couldn't even go into work, and I referred myself to mental health. So I walked up there and I told them everything that happened. I was like, "This is how I feel." And they were like, "That's fine." Like, that's when I started, like, learning, like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to, like, do all this. I'm probably gonna start
Mm-hmm.
crying now 'cause I'm talking about it.
No, no, no.
Um, sorry, but they put me in ADAP, which is the Alcohol Drug Abuse Prevention and Treatment Program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sorry.
So when you made that decision, did you go straight from the bar? You just went straight there, saying, you know what? Was there a long day of that whole day of drinking?
It was a
Was the
whole day of drinking
conversation?
before.
Was
Yeah,
that a whole
so
conversation with yourself?
it was a whole day of sitting at the bar, like, probably Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
drinking once the bar opened at, like or the restaurant opened at, like, 10 AM, brunch, and I was there probably till, like, 9 o'clock at night.
Oh wow.
It was a lot.
Were you with anyone else?
I was with a few people that they would come and go, but
Mm-hmm.
I was all over the place.
You were just posted up.
Oh, yeah, but I went into work the next day, probably still hungover, still drunk, and I talked to my supervisor, and I was like, "I can't work today, I'm just emotionally not where I should be." So
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "Do what you gotta do, like, if you need the day off, cool," and she's like I told her, I was like, "Honestly, I think I'm gonna go up to mental health." So, I think it helped me because I, like, worked in the medical field, so I was like, "It's not far away." I just walked right upstairs, and it was like,
But
"Hey, mental health's right here."
but that is the courage in that decision is
I know, I still
incredible.
cry thinking about it because I was, like, going through it all over again. I'm like, "This is a lot."
No, 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 and I appreciate it because there's the steps to where, you know, you try to think back and say, you know what, maybe this was an issue or this was an issue, but when you make your own personal, everyone could come around and
Yeah.
try to have a, you need help. No one ever wants to be told something is wrong with them.
You can't
You
help
know,
like, others can't help you. It's like everyone will tell you need help. You can't like, it's not gonna work until you come to a realization like, "Hey, no, I need to do this for myself now."
hmm
So, that's the point where I walked up there, I talked to them, and they I think what really helped me is that, like I first said, I joined the Air Force because I needed that structure.
yeah,
The mental health clinic actually gave me that structure I needed to find my sobriety at the time. Obviously, I'm not sober anymore because there is a part of me that likes drinking because I do like the flavor. I like enjoying it with friends and people. Um, but they also put me through the program because it was a problem from a younger age when I was in high school, and
hmm
obviously my ex-husband was 3 years older than me, so I got alcohol through him, and it just slowly started creeping up, especially since I didn't experience my party phase. It hit me really hard when I was in Alaska, and then getting here, going to new places, like, every time you're here or military-esque, you're always invited out to a drink after, so drinking has become part of my life. It wasn't something I wanted to give up completely, but I did it
hmm
for about a year, and it did help me realize, like, one thing that I do when I get stressed or frustrated is I would drink. So instead of like going straight for alcohol when I get stressed or frustrated, I would open a kombucha or something
hmm
non-alcoholic and drink that and relax until I find myself in a safe place where I know I can drink and enjoy the people that are around me.
You know how
Um,
deep that is? Don't just
yeah.
skip over that because that is incredibly deep because I know how it could feel like, I had a problem with alcohol. I received treatment. Now I drink from time to time. There's zero judgment that anyone could ever give you because you've
Mhm.
controlled it.
Yeah,
And it,
I can go days or, like, weeks without drinking now. Roller derby also helped me because when I'm in, like, in season and training, I won't drink. I'll drink
mhm,
at after parties and around people, but there are locations, like, especially here, there's restaurants that if I go there, I will refuse to drink because if there's certain people I see, I know it'll trigger something in me, and I will go down a spiral. So I learned
mhm.
to, like, know when I can have alcohol and when I can't.
that's independence and freedom right there.
Mhm.
Because that's something you're everyone, I think, if you have something you're always going to struggle with,
Yeah.
but it's those little triggers that if you can identify them, I feel, help you a lot more in time.
Yeah.
What the more places you're able to go to, then you could, then more people. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, my journey with alcohol is definitely not everyone's is gonna be different. So for me, it was just something where I was like, I knew I wanted to drink again. Um, and there's some people who know they absolutely can't. And I think one of the biggest things that helped me was sitting in, it's pretty much like AA and ADAP where you sit with a bunch of other people and hearing everyone else's story. Like there's been people who almost ruined their entire marriages over alcohol because they just were binge drinking and they would crack open a bottle at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I
Hmm.
was like, "Sure, I used to do that." Um,
How long was it, the program that they put you in?
I was in the program for, I think, about 10 months. I ended up being sober for more than that because I was in the program and I got pregnant well in the program.
So I'm guessing it wasn't I'm drawing a blank. It was, so you still lived at home and you could go there. It wasn't you
Yeah, it
stay
wasn't,
there.
they have inpatient programs, it wasn't inpatient. It
Hmm.
was pretty much I would go to work and I would have an appointment. How they have, like, different levels, so I was, like, a level 2 where I was, like,
Hmm.
almost reliant on alcohol a little bit. I'm pretty sure if Schaefer was to go, his probably at the time would have been a lot higher than mine because he actually went through withdrawals when he stopped drinking.
Hmm.
I didn't have the withdrawals, but I was missing it and craving it, and I think that was the problem is, like, you once you know you're craving alcohol is when you realize you kind of a problem. So the first week, you actually go in about 4 3 to 4 days of the week, and you get your blood drawn.
Hmm.
Um, so I had that accountability, to not drink
Did
because
you enjoy that?
getting my blood drawn,
Yeah, meaning, and I mean that in the most, like, to me, I
I think
think
I
that's the
enjoyed.
greatest thing, because when you talk about accountability and structure,
Yeah.
I can't drink because they're gonna test me, and it's a great feeling because you couldn't.
Mhm. That's what helped me. If
Hmm.
they weren't drawing my blood, it wouldn't have worked because I would have gone out with friends and family, and they would have been like, "Oh, you can have one." I'd be like, "You know what? You're probably right. I can have
You can
one."
have one,
And I
and
would have one, and then it would be more, and then I would start fighting somebody because of something they said. I don't know. Things would have
mhm.
gotten bad. But the accountability is definitely what helped me. And I don't know, it slowly started getting less. Like, obviously, when I got pregnant, they were still taking my blood, but I was like, "I'm
Mhm.
not drinking. I'm pregnant." But
Did that
it
help?
being pregnant, ugh.
Yeah. Was that the best part of starting the program? Because I mean, there ain't more accountability than that.
The
Like,
accountability was yeah. Um, I hated being pregnant. I know most women are gonna be like, "I loved it. I love being pregnant. I love the attention." I absolutely hated it. I hated my body just changing. Um, it wasn't for me. So I think I love the accountability of ADAP more than the accountability of I can't have alcohol because 'cause I'm pregnant.
no, because so I was on recruiting duty for a long time in the Marine Corps, and the stress levels can be a lot for regular people. And
Yeah.
there's been a lot of people that's why I asked about the inpatient, because usually when somebody is dealing with something has to happen before everyone knows.
Mhm.
Like a DUI, a car accident, drunk at work, and we
Yeah.
would catch recruiters just completely drunk at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just trying to work, and it was just they needed that. I guess that just that bathrobe on them. They wanted to
Yeah.
just feel comfortable throughout the day, and it like you said, they just needed maybe something.
They craved it and they went to what was just normal for them. They're like,
Hmm.
they seek a lot of people seek comfort in alcohol because it's what they do on a daily basis. They're like, "Oh, I need alcohol to relax my nerves. I had a stressful day. I need a drink after this. Oh, this day was great. Let's go celebrate." Like, no matter
Hmm.
what, most people are like, "I need a drink for something."
Do you feel that when you were received into the mental health,
Mhm.
how did you feel the process was? because a lot of people, when you hear that and you're in the military,
People think you're going to
there's
get kicked out.
you've already lost it. You're fifth
Mhm.
floor, you're gone. You're seeing the wizard. But it can be very scary going by yourself, and then to have appointments. And did work know? Did
Yes.
did everyone knew?
They didn't have to know, but I was so vocal and open about my situation and everything that was going on.
Hmm.
So pretty much what happened is I had a friend that completely betrayed me and I like lost it and I probably threatened her a lot and I was like, we're done. I can't. It wasn't good. And I think that's why I broke down.
Was
So
that during the sobriety? Like you already checked in, or
no, this is what led me to go to mental health. I already knew
okay?
about mental health, so after her betrayal, I already knew about mental health, and I was, like, binge drinking, and I was like, it really does you were talking about most people get DUIs and stuff. Mine was, just the feeling of betrayal from someone I considered a friend, and I was like, "This sucks." So I had that happen, and I've never had it happen to me before, so I was like, "I need to talk to somebody," and I talked to mental health, because I treated them like therapy, but most
Hmm.
people don't see it like that. Um,
Did you have to answer the questions, the mental health questions,
yes,
every day?
every time you go to mental health. It's
Hmm.
very, very annoying. I hated it.
You've been sad for the last 2 weeks.
Every
Uh,
time you go to mental health, they have questions for you, and they're like, "Do you feel safe? Do you feel this?" And I was like I ended up, like, actually reading a lot of the questions. I was like, "You know what? After this, I don't feel like going out anymore." Like, I did lose interest in a lot of things that I loved.
hmm.
And so I wrote that on there, and they talked to me about it, and they were like, "Yeah, this happens." Like, pretty much what like,
So
I had
being
a form
honest
what
was
was that?
was so being honest was helpful.
Yeah, it was actually very helpful because you learn, like, you can get a form of I pretty much went through a trauma. You can get a form of PTSD without having to be overseas or having, like, be in war or or being in car accidents. Like, you can get PTSD from emotional things that happen to you.
Absolutely.
So and I
And
think I learned that there.
I think one thing I went through the Mission 22 program they had, and because I was an ambassador for Mission
Mhm.
22, and I wanted to know more about, what is it? What is the program? And going through the program and reading the books, that a lot of the trauma, like that you're speaking of, comes from things that happened when we were younger, maybe a situation, and then more trauma builds onto that. And
Mhm.
then after a while, that pot is steaming, and you can't mentally just, and it started bubbling
Yeah.
10 years ago, or it could have been something that, I believe we have these conversations in our mind, and it's those little things that keep coming up, and then you add more trauma onto it, and it just becomes a,
It
a
just
a
keeps building, it
mixture.
gets worse. Yeah.
Hmm.
Walking into mental health though, like, as soon as I open that door, obviously the office itself, they dim the lights for you, they have nice furniture, they try to make it as welcoming as possible, they want
Well,
people to come see them.
truth be told, for all the listeners that are listening, all the Air Force furniture is nice to begin with.
You're not wrong.
So let's just, truth be told, it might have been nicer,
It was.
but
So, I
but
mean, if an army person actually walks into a mental health clinic, they're gonna think they're at a resort.
I'm telling you, when you go to a Marine chow hall and then you go to an Air Force chow hall. I told the story on the
Mhm.
contagion effect. It's a different setting
Yeah, I
per
remember you
se,
talking about that.
different setting per se. But going into anything as a service member while you're serving,
Yeah.
and you have to go into mental health, that is to me an ego overdrive, feeling helpless, selfless thing, that it has to be hard, because
Yeah.
you have to, especially you working in the medical field. Was it in the same building? You said it was a couple
It was. So,
upstairs.
and the optometry clinic's on the first floor. Mental health is normally always on the top floor. So
Hmm.
you always get that view. So I just had to walk down the hall a little bit, take the elevator up, and it was right there.
Did you have an option of inpatient?
No, I didn't need it. It wasn't something that they offered me. I wouldn't think I would have gone anyways.
Hmm. So
Um,
so you feel going through it helped you, getting pregnant helped you, and all that?
Going through the ADAP program tremendously helped me. It not
Hmm.
only helped me with understanding my alcohol intake, it also helped me, like, I would say anyone talking to a therapist would help, because that's what I treated it like. So even if someone isn't comfortable with mental health, I probably could have gotten the same help from going to the chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
It's just mental health. Once they put me in the ADAP program, they gave me that accountability that I needed, with the blood drawing and everything, to make sure I wasn't drinking, which was more helpful than I think just talking to a chaplain.
Do you feel it's being able to exhale?
What was that?
Do you feel, because that's the feeling I get, being able to talk to someone or get
Yeah.
things out. It's like being able to exhale, like you
Yes.
just feel good. Like you can
Yeah.
just talk to someone for hours
That's
without
exactly what it was for me. Just with
without
judgment.
repercussion, judgment, and it's like, hey, this is it. You're gonna get all of it and
Yes.
and more.
So one thing about, like, when you go to a therapist, and you talk to someone, there is always a little bit of judgment. They can give feedback, and, like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously their feedback can be different based on their personalities or how they perceive the situation. But when you go to mental health and talk to them, they're trained in ADAP to have, like, very specific answers to everything, and medical reasons and science behind stuff. So when they're giving you answers, it's not judgy, and it's based off of actual factual evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's non-biased, and I could actually take that and tell them my entire experience and everything that I was feeling, and they were to be able to be like, "This is what you're possibly going through." And that's when they said, "You went through a traumatic event," and I was like, "No, the fuck I didn't." And then they relate it to me, and whenever I would, like, I think how they described it is, if you're on this circular road and you keep driving and you have this trauma at, like, let's say next to a McDonald's, and then you just keep driving, every time you pass a McDonald's, you're going to think about that in your head. And I was like, you're right. Every time I see this person, I think about this trauma in my head. Or if I see this place, I think about this trauma. So they not
Mm-hmm.
only teach you, like, this is what trauma is and how you feel it, but this is how you can handle it. Like, this is things that you can do. They give you steps for coping. They give you breathing things, obviously, which
Mm-hmm.
most people do. But other than that, they're mainly just there for you to talk to if you need someone to talk to. And I think that was more helpful for me, is just being able to, like, talk about the situation that happened to me and about my alcohol intake and how I was coping. And once I started vocalizing it out loud, I could listen back on myself and be like, yeah, I didn't handle that well at all. Like, that's not something I should have done.
So, with your experience with over 10 years in the Air Force, that has to help you with helping other people, or
100%.
people you worked with, or people that work underneath you, people that work in
Mhm.
the facility with you. Once you're able to go through that and make and maintain it, I mean, some people that go through sobriety, they get their or AA, they get their
Yeah,
year coin, and
I got mine.
it becomes so crucial.
Pointless.
And but I don't see anything wrong with, if you can maintain it for a year, you can do it forever. That's
Yeah.
the discipline that you were able to build.
Mhm.
So I think being able to have that experience, that's a life trait and a life experience that you could give to someone else.
Yeah, I agree. Before my experience with mental health, obviously, when I was in Alaska, I threw that paper in the garbage and I was like, I'm not going to that place. No way. I didn't even know where it was in the med group in Alaska. I just didn't want to go.
Hmm.
I avoided it at all costs, like most people do. But now, actually, like, sucking up my pride and going, I try to tell people all the time, like, hey, if you need someone to talk to, just go to mental health. They're actually great. When you fill out those forms, you can put as much or as little on there as you want.
Hmm.
You can do the bare minimum. You can be completely honest or not be honest. I mean, most of the time, people aren't honest when they're filling out how many drinks do you drink a week, because they don't
Hmm.
want to go through ADAB. But if you feel like being honest with yourself, then write it down.
Yeah, because they say 3 to 5, and you go,
I
that's
have
it.
3 to
That's it.
5 a day or in
It's
an
just,
hour.
I see you missed some of these multiple choice questions.
Like, which one? Oh, those ones? I didn't think they were for me. But I definitely now, I had an airman up in Alaska who had a situation happen to her, and if I've known what I know now, I would have told her, be like, "Hey, you definitely need someone to talk to. Like, mental health is a great resource. You can talk to them, you can talk to the chaplain, and there's a lot of other resources out there that people can use." I think with my ex-husband, I actually used, I forgot what it was called, but it was an outside military organization. and I absolutely hated it.
Like Military One Source or
It was
something?
Military One Source. I love the program itself, but I hate the therapist that they sent us to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so most people just need to know that like every therapist is different. They all have like they all perceive things differently. They all have their personality. So if one doesn't work, definitely try to find another one because you might find someone that's more relatable for you.
Mm-hmm.
But just like friends, like you're not going to be friends with everybody. You're not going to like every therapist you meet just because of their personality. And I didn't realize that at the time. But I did meet a therapist here, and she's absolutely amazing. And we just like talk really well. So you definitely,
You still go and talk to
yeah,
them?
yeah, they're right on base and they're easy to go to. So if I ever have issues and I just need someone to talk to for an hour, I'll go sit in her office and I'll just chat.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good
Yeah,
release then.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, before you go home, let me unpack this real quick.
Right. It's pretty much like a session like this, like just how I'm talking to you. Like you're like my therapy session right now. So thank you. And I don't have
You're
to pay for
welcome. No, it's free,
it.
free. So you went through that. You had your daughter.
hmm
Then what? How did life carry on?
Um, I guess it just kept going. I ended up getting I my job definitely got better. I was more focused on my career. I ended up getting the Air Force Global Strike Command Ophthalmic NCO of the Year award, which I was
Oh,
like, I've never gotten an award before. So I was like, I felt
that.
good. I was like, I've never had like an actual like award that big before. And I was like, this is nice. I've been coined by people. I've gotten little things, but
Mm-hmm.
that was great for me.
Was that a victory?
It
You
was a victory.
feel?
Yes, definitely.
Did you ever contact that guy that gave you the card back in Alaska?
I don't think so. No.
Do do
I
you?
think he's still in the military. He's probably getting ready to retire here soon. But no, I haven't talked to him.
Do you
Also, I mean, you get some supervisors that you like, and then some that, like just like therapists, some that you just don't communicate very well with. And he wasn't the best communicator.
so
And
y'all just didn't get along to begin with. I mean, I've had those.
I want
You
to say
just
we
didn't get
really,
along.
yeah, I want to say we really didn't get along as much as I didn't feel comfortable talking to him. He was just not a person I felt comfortable talking with. And I think it definitely helps when you have a supervisor where you can just go sit in their office and you feel comfortable telling them everything. And I think that was one of the things that were super helpful here at this space for me. I was so comfortable with my supervisors that I went and sat in her office and I cried and I cried and I said everything that was going on. I was like, I'm going to mental health.
I think that's powerful that you said that because that is a leadership thing, I believe, to where if you have people that need to come to you and they don't feel they can talk to you, either being a parent or being in a leadership position, and someone can't come to you or say anything to you, that is bad.
Yeah.
That is bad for everybody.
And it's not even that he was a bad supervisor. He was just a poor communicator, not someone that I was comfortable communicating with. So
Because I mean, you could look at it as professionally he did his job, let's say,
he did.
but we're in the military. It's as they say, family first. Like you have to be able to understand if you have someone working with you,
Yeah.
what they're going through. Like if you're dealing with something, just telling you, you should do this.
You need to learn your people.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just say you have a problem. Didn't even ask why you would have a problem, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you laid it out perfectly for leadership 101 class. Like this is the signs you would see. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like you laid it out for him, and he punted it.
I was like, the fact that he didn't like come to me sooner and say like, "Hey, you have something going on. What's going on?" I probably would have approached it differently. But the fact
Hmm.
that he let it get to the point where he only cared about me showing up like 2 minutes late every single day. Because I was like,
Because
it was only 2 minutes late. That's all he cared about. He didn't care about anything else. So when it came to the point where he wrote me an LOR, letter of reprimand, for being late, I was like, you're not even care. You don't care about what's going on in my life. You're awkward to talk to. I don't want to talk to you. And you're just going to throw a piece of paper that says mental health and the phone number on my desk and say, I suggest that you call them. I'm not going to do it.
no, because that I mean that's only gonna for some I would say maybe weaker that could drive them into a deeper hole
Oh, 100%.
because they
Yeah.
don't have the guidance at work, especially if you're young and you're dealing with someone who's supposed to be your mentor, your work supervisor, the person that's supposed to be helping you mentally, physically, emotionally while you're at work, and
Mhm.
making sure you're good at home.
Yeah, I didn't things at work didn't really get better until I got a new supervisor there. Absolutely amazing. He was a great supervisor, and he was just like a relatable person. And he
Hmm.
actually explained to me like how people should react with other people. So he knows that I'm a very talkative person and very outgoing. So he's like, "All right, so I'm going to talk to you more outgoing." But he knew like my other coworker was very timid and he doesn't like going out, so he interacted with him in a different way. So I was like,
Hmm.
he really got people, and he explained that to me as well. And then that's when I started learning how to pretty much learn other people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's leadership 101. From like, maybe it's a time thing. Some people want their time off. You have to
Yeah.
know, like you said, you have to know who you're working with,
Yeah. If they
because
want
some,
like encouragement or to just be left
like,
alone.
maybe they want coins, they want awards, they want, they want to be, they want, look at me, they want
Yeah,
praise, or they just want to be left alone.
exactly.
If you don't know those people, you're not going to be able to see what demons they could be having. you
And most
know
people hear this and they're like, "Oh, that sounds so basic. Doesn't everyone know this?" And I was like, "No, not everybody knows this." And it's very sad to see that there are supervisors out there that will completely treat everyone the same exact way, and that way is most of the time shit.
No, I'll be honest. The first thing, when you said he would only mess with you because you were coming in late,
Yeah.
my first thing was because someone would see you and it'll make him look bad.
Yep.
That's the only thing I could think. Like, if that's bothering him and he doesn't ask what's going on in your personal life,
Yeah.
like, that's like, hey, what are we doing? What are we doing here? That's a problem.
Yeah. Even if he's like not good at talking to someone, I would have found someone that was good at talking. Like he knew that I was really close to another coworker. He could have talked to that coworker and been like, "Hey, go talk to her. What's going on with her? Because I don't
Hmm.
communicate well with her, but you do." But he
Do
didn't
you,
even delegate.
do you feel that it was better off that you didn't go, that you had to crash and burn, per se?
Um, I probably would have been better off if I went then.
Hmm. Why do you think?
I would have learned a whole lot about myself a whole lot sooner.
Okay.
I think my career would have flourished more. I think just like the struggles that I would have had, I wouldn't have had to go through
Hmm.
like later on, and I could have ended it and stopped a lot of things sooner.
No, that makes sense. There's always going to be I think, that part that we can never fix or
Mhm.
change,
Yeah.
and it's always that thing that's it's gonna like that annoying bug bite you're never going to get to. It's unchangeable. You can't fix time,
Yeah.
but you got the lessons along with it, though.
I did. I definitely did get some lessons.
Because I think that's the hard part with trauma. You learn so much, you become an advocate for it,
Mhm.
and that's the only thing you could really use your experiences for good. Because, sadly, you're a victory story. Your story ended well in
Yeah.
that vicinity, because a lot of people, they don't have that option.
Yeah. I know there's also a lot of women out there who I talk to a lot of other female military people,
Hmm.
and when I tell them my story, they're like, "I've had that happen to me too." And I'm like, they're just not open about it and they don't talk. And they're like, "I've went through the same exact thing." I'm like, "Well, this is what you can do about it." And I think just telling them my story, it makes them feel better about themselves knowing that they're not alone. And it's kind of sad because I think a lot of female military members don't come out and talk about their situations because since they're in a field predominantly with men, they don't
Hmm.
want to come across as a bitch or complaining all the time or crying all the time. And I'm like, honestly, it's fine.
I
It's not a
think
big deal.
I think honestly, it takes maturing since I retired to look back and see that ego that they give you, that confidence they give you, we don't use it for the right things. And it's,
Yeah.
you can't, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't be in charge of anybody. You can't, do your job. So exploring the venues that the military has for us while we're in is, I think, is key, because it's a scary place to get to.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of resources out there that a lot of people don't know about it. And I think people need the confidence to just realize, like, hey, these are these resources. You can use them. and just actually like talk about their situations and know what's going on with them. I mean, have the confidence to say no to something because you're just emotionally not able to do that job right now. And
Absolutely.
everyone's like a yes man. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do this. Like, it's okay to say no, but as long as you say, no, I can't do it because this is how I'm feeling right now, and this is why.
So I labeled this episode Dual Duties
Mm-hmm.
because active duty Air Force, female, woman, married to a country superstar. You're a
Hopefully.
you're a mom. How is it to do everything and with a wife of a veteran?
It's exhausting. Schaefer actually just walked in.
How is it juggling it all?
You're good. You're good. Like I said, it is exhausting. However, it's rewarding when you see things like all coming together.
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time. So I'll wake up. The the babies, she doesn't normally wake up until like 7. Fortunately, my mom has been here and she's been helping with childcare, so it definitely makes
Mm-hmm.
it easier on us. But normally, I would wake up, get the baby ready, and Schaefer would take over after he's done with his clients. At work, I would see all my patients in the morning, get what I have to do on my lunchtime. Instead of actually eating lunch most of the time, I'm actually working for Schaefer and I'm doing all his social media and all his marketing and everything. And then I go back to work after that, come home, take care of my animals, and then I'm with Raylan again. And that's pretty much my day in and day out. It's exhausting and it doesn't even seem like a lot, but it is.
Do you so you manage all his business affairs as well?
For the most part, yeah.
Now, I have one complaint
Oh no.
about Schaefer's social media.
Okay.
It's unshareable.
It should be.
The stories are unshareable because then you're the one I'm messaging. I said I can't
Yeah.
share it. I'm trying to share things, but the stories become
Yeah. So
unshareable.
the stories on Instagram, I don't think are actually shareable unless you're tagged in them.
Possibly. You may be correct.
Yeah, so you can't share a story unless you're tagged in it. But the pictures on the Instagram pages, so if you go to the actual page and you scroll through and you see a picture, you can share that picture onto your story or video. But the stories themselves, you can't share unless you're tagged. But I'll tag you from now on.
Yeah, tag me. I mean, I dig it. I shared the block video, and people messaged me like, "What's wrong with him?" And I was like, "No, that's the song." Like,
Oh,
because
the
I just put blocked. I just put
oh,
blocked. I shared the video on the story. I tagged him, but I just put blocked big
yep.
across the bottom. And people were like, "What?" And I'm like,
Why is he blocked? I
Watch
don't
the
get it.
whole thing. You might get it."
Yeah, he actually just got all his songs rated through the Nashville Songwriters Association, and that was one of the good songs. But the highest rated song was "Dancing," which was the song that he wrote about how me and him met.
Mm-hmm.
So super cute. But yeah, I manage all his social media. I put him up for a bunch of things, book all his gigs, manage his schedule for the best of my ability. He has a lot going on too. I think he's more busy than I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I get the chance to throw him in on some volunteer opportunities. So he has a gig this Saturday for an organization that takes funds and they make deployment packages
Oh,
for
okay.
military members, and they send them out to deployed members. Yeah,
Oh,
deployment
wow.
packages. So I think he's a little upset that I'm making him drive 2 hours to play an unpaid gig, but I was like, no, it's for a good cause. It'll be fun. You'll have fun. Just do it.
Now you guys only do local shows?
No, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
book him almost anywhere I can as long as we don't lose money is primarily the thing. Like, obviously gas is expensive. I'll do things for exposure for him, but that's normally only local. But I put him on a tour up the East Coast. We went all the way up to New York and back down here to Louisiana and Texas. And obviously we're moving back to Alaska, which I'm super excited about.
You're excited
Um,
about it?
I enjoyed my experiences in Alaska, and I think now after my experiences here, I'm gonna enjoy Alaska a lot more. I'm excited to get Raylan out on the mountain at 1 year old snowboarding. I think it's gonna be
Hmm.
awesome, and just start hiking up there again, get that fresh Alaskan air that I miss so much.
Now, will you be in the same unit, same building, same
Same
exact?
exact job,
Oh.
except this time I will be on time.
So one thing we haven't discussed is your push, we'll say, at your roller derby professional card.
Hmm. I'm
So
working on it.
tell me about roller derby. How does one get involved? How does one do
Yeah,
it? Because it is I've seen it. It looks unsafe. It makes me nervous,
it's
and
my
it
favorite.
looks extremely brutal. It
You
looks
got
like
another hour to talk.
it looks like lacrosse on skates.
Well, there's no ball.
Just
I would
saying it.
I would say like football on skates almost without the ball, just like pushing people. Um, so I've been skating my entire life almost. I was a rink rat and I grew up jam skating, so I would dance on skates too. When I was, I think around 16, someone came up to me in the skating ring. He was like, "Do you play roller derby?" And I was like, "Yeah, I play roller derby," but I had no idea what it was. I was just like, "Yes, I do this." I was a cocky little kid. I didn't care.
Hmm.
I just said yes to everything. But I ended up looking into it later on in life, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually something I would probably really like." So when I was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base, I needed a hobby, obviously, because my ex-husband, me and him weren't really getting along, and I just wanted something to get out of the house all the time.
Hmm.
So when I found roller derby, I thought I had to be 21 to play. So I waited until my 21st birthday and went in for open tryouts. Had no idea how to play the sport, but I was a really good skater. Um, and that's what they said too. I ended up getting picked up on a team almost immediately for the DC Roller Girls. And then they taught me all the rules and everything. And I ended up learning how to play. I was a jammer. Before my very first game, though, I ended up breaking my leg.
Ooh.
I know it was so sad. I had a game the next day and I couldn't like play in it because I had a cast on my leg. But it was no fault but my own because I ended up falling on myself. No one even hit me.
Ooh.
So most of the
Oh, oh.
injuries that I get are my own fault.
So are you going to continue this roller derby career up in Alaska?
Yes. So that's actually where my career kind of took off. So after I
Hmm.
broke my leg, it took 9 months for my leg to heal. And then right as I was getting back into it, I found out that I was PCSing up to Anchorage. And I got stationed up there and I looked into roller derby almost immediately. And then I tried out for the team there and they put me on the travel team as soon as they possibly could because they needed another jammer on their travel team. And so I think 2 months after being in Alaska, I went on my first roller derby tournament to Fort Lauderdale, Florida for beach brawl.
Oh
And I
wow.
played I played in a 3-day tournament with 8 skaters when normally teams have 15 skaters. I had the highest scoring jam of the entire tournament, which is a jam is how many points you can score in like 2 minutes. And we won every single game. And I think after I worked so hard for this that after my last game, I broke down crying because I was so proud of my accomplishments and everything. And I was
Hmm.
hooked ever since that point. And I ended up going back to Alaska, played 3 years up there. I was actually nominated for they have the best of Alaska like they do in like other places. I was Alaska's second best athlete, and I actually beat out an Olympian cross country skier for that spot, which
And
was
now
super cool.
this now is there, because I don't know anything about
Mhm.
roller derby, that when you get put on that position, what does that mean?
So there are jammers and blockers in roller derby, and there's
Hmm.
5 people from each team on the track at a time. So you have 10 people on the track. 4 of the people on the team are blockers. There's one jammer. The jammer has a star on their helmet, and their job is to pretty much skate past the opposing team members and get points. Every blocker that you get past of the opposing team, you get 1 point.
And they're trying
Um,
to elbow you and keep you from going around.
there's no elbows. You can't just like knock someone in the face.
You wear elbow pads though, right?
Yeah, you wear elbow pads, knee pads,
Hmm.
wrist
Hmm.
guards, mouth guard, and
Hmm.
helmet.
That
Uh,
sounds
it's a
dangerous.
lot. But they're pretty much you can't hit anyone directly in the back either, or below the knees or above the head. But pretty much if I'm skating and someone turns around and faces their front body to me, I can drop my shoulder into their chest, into their body, and like push them out of my way. Just like run right through them. I have videos of it. It's my favorite thing to do. But most of the time, the blockers are working together as a team, like 4 of them to hold me back. So they're like rotating around the pack skating, and I'm trying to like juke them and move around them as fast as I possibly can. But most of the time, it just ends up hitting each other.
How long's the season?
So it depends on the league. Alaska's season is normally starting September through, I want to say March, but most people actually have the opposite season because they don't want to play during the holidays and stuff. Alaska, we just need something to do in the wintertime.
Oh wow. So
But
out of your experience in the Air Force, what is the biggest thing you think about mental health that is hurting active duty, and then as they get out to become veterans? That you see from where you're at.
So like mentally, what you think is hurting? I think people just not having a good understanding of the resources available to them, like the mental health process in general, like the stigma that if you go see mental health, you're getting kicked out. Because I mean, Schaefer said it all the time, like all the Army people, they talked about it in the Contagion Effect, that everyone said mental health, you're done. Your career's done. And I was like, that's not necessarily the case. And even if you don't want to talk to mental health, you can talk to a chaplain and tell them everything. Like that chaplain is confidential. They can't tell anyone shit. So I think people just need to suck up their pride. And even if you don't feel like you need to talk to somebody, just go talk to somebody just to talk. Just have a chat. Walk by your chaplain's office, be like, hey, chaplain, I wanted to know where your office was. I didn't know where it was, and I just wanted to say hi. Just face value. Just get to know people.
You make it sound as easy as I scream at people to go get motivated and do something. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of a lot of support.
Yes. I would say one thing that everyone can do, even if they think that they don't have issues, if you don't know, either say your chaplain's office or your mental health office, if you don't know where they are, just set a goal to be like, I want to know where it is. So go to that office, stop in, poke your head in, and be like, hey, I just didn't know where the office was and I wanted to know where it was. So here I am. I just wanted to say hi and then leave. At least you know where the office is and then you showed your face.
And make contact.
Yeah.
So I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Yeah.
I think it's been great. I would love to have you on again. I was excited about the story you told. I think it could reach a bunch of people and change possible, emotions and ideals that, mental health is a bad thing instead of something that we could get worked through.
Yeah. So for me, I'm a very open and vocal person. I will talk to people. So if there's any female veterans, female military people, don't even have to be female, anyone that wants to talk and not be on face, not on the phone, you can slide into my DMs and chat with me. I will talk to you and I will give you any information that you want, even if it's just hear my story.
Perfect. No, I appreciate it. It takes a lot of courage to come on and share and be real. And I think that's the hardest part with veterans and active duty, knowing who you are and being okay with sharing how you are.
Yeah.
And once you get that sharing how you are at, then the reaction is non-existent.
You had me crying over here on camera, so yeah.
Hey. That you crying was more unexpected as the internet not failing during this thing. So
right.
so it worked out.
It's just going back to like the things. It's like I was on that road and I came back to it and I was like, oh shit, here we go. But yeah.
No, I appreciate it. But for everyone else, this has been Every Second Counts podcast. Make it count.
Make it count.
Yeah, if I could